there was a time when I was in Iraq where, and I won't go through the details, but our convoy got hit by IEDs and ambushes and things like that. And I didn't think I was going to make it through the convoy. And so at that day, I looked up at the sky and I was like, hey, if I can make it through this, I'm going to treat every day like it's a gift, and I'm going to help others with that.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to New Money, where we talk to movers and shakers about how they made it. I'm your host, Rosemarie Miller, here with David Kennedy, the founder and CEO of TrustedSec in binary defense. Thank you so much for joining me today, David.
Rosemarie, thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So, David, I want to know your origin story. Like, what brought you all the way from you were a Marine, all the way to owning multiple companies and primarily in cybersecurity?
Yeah, ever since I was a kid, I was super fascinated with technology, computers. I lived in an inner city school, raised with lower to middle class parents, great parents, and always wanted to get into computers. I actually failed out of high school because I was always obsessed with computers, tearing them apart. Remember my first Teddy Ruxpin, if you remember that. It was a toy back in the late 80s, and my parents got it for me for a gift. And I just remember the first day I got it, I tore the whole thing apart to figure out how it worked. And I think I got grounded for like a week. But technology has always just been something that's embedded in me. And so when I got out of high school, I decided to join the military, and I scored very highly on what they call their aptitude test, or the ASVAB test. And I went into intelligence, so I had a top secret government clearance. I worked for the NSA. And I started doing cyber warfare, early stages of cyber warfare in the security industry for the United States Marine Corps, and eventually deployed twice to Iraq and Bahrain and a number of other locations. But I was there during the initial invasion, as well as during the major insurgencies over there, doing cyber warfare activities to help our troops and understand where the infiltration of the terrorists were at and those types of things. And really honed in a lot of my craft. And the rest is kind of history. The military gave me some really good training. And from there, I was able to kind of build upon that and start to build my career in cybersecurity.
Yeah. And so after the military, you had a 9-to-5 for a good amount of years, right?
Yeah. As soon as I got out of the military, I joined a small consulting shop that, I think they had like 4 or 5 people. Cybersecurity was still a really new industry. This is, circa 2005 or so. And got out, and I was a consultant for a number of years, and I eventually ended up running their entire consulting practice. We went from like 4 or 5 people to like 55 people because the demand was so big. And I got offered a position to become the chief security officer for Diebold Incorporated. And I was 26 years old at that time. So I was the youngest vice president in Diebold history. I didn't have a degree at that point yet. And they're like, well, you have to go back and get a degree. So I had to go back to college to get, I just got a business management degree. And I became the chief security officer for a global Fortune 1000 company based on a lot of the talents I was able to do and build my reputation in the industry, as well as being kind of forward thinking in the industry. And I was there for about 5 or 6 years running a global cyber program. And then one day, went home to my wife, who had just had twins, by the way, so great timing. And I said, honey, I know we only got 3 or 4 months of mortgage in the bank. I think I want to leave this perfectly amazing, stable job at 30 years old and start a company in the basement of our house. And that's really what kicked off my 2 companies.
Yeah. So let's take it back a little bit.
Yeah.
You're 26 years old with this leadership position. Where did you learn those leadership skills?
I had a lot of great mentors throughout my career. One of them was an individual named Scott Angelo, who worked for DARPA, as well as worked at the consulting agency and eventually went over to Diebold. And he was really a big inspiration for me because I was extremely technical on, reverse engineering and hacking and breaking into computers. And Scott really taught me a lot of the softer skills of how to communicate, how to run teams, how to manage, how to build things. And coming from a smaller consulting company, I learned the business aspects, the accounting, the financials, the sales, the marketing. So I was becoming really well-rounded in how I was able to communicate. And during that period of time, there was a lot of need for cybersecurity experts in the media. So I started doing news interviews on global networks. I started writing a lot of posts on different organizations, and my name started to amplify and grow. Spoke at some of the largest cybersecurity conferences in the world. I testified in front of Congress on numerous occasions on cybersecurity, and really became a subject matter expert in our industry and one of the top leaders of really the forefront of what is cybersecurity today. And so I think a lot of it was timing, but it was also really my passion of trying to make the world a safer place, because I saw what was happening with these nation states like China, Russia, North Korea, Iran, building up their cyber capabilities and what was happening on the war field and applying that to corporations and what we see now with ransomware. And really was trying to get ahead of that to help companies and organizations and people out to really protect them. And that really kind of catapulted and skyrocketed my reputation in the industry and eventually my career and eventually what turned into two highly successful large companies.
So basically, you were kind of like a cybersecurity influencer before being an influencer was a thing.
That's right. And it's so funny because you look at content generation now, right? And the biggest thing was there wasn't these formalized cybersecurity industries, these big companies and these conglomerate companies focused on cybersecurity. And so my area was I was publishing all of this data for free out there around how to protect your corporations, how to protect your information, releasing tools that helped test the security of your programs. And so, a lot of my tools became world renowned in the cybersecurity industry. In fact, I got to work on the TV show Mr. Robot with Rami Malek and Christian Slater. They used a lot of my tools. I helped them with some of their skits and stunts they used for the TV show on USA. And the whole hacker culture really started to push forward, and the industry started to push forward. And I was definitely leading a lot of that in the beginning, as well as still today with the industry. It's always been a passion of mine and just something I always love doing. It's like a lot of people go to work, they come home, and they don't want to do work anymore. For me, it's a hobby. It's going there and figuring things out that have never been done before, tearing things apart, and being able to communicate that in a way to the masses has been something that I've been really focusing on.
So communicating that to the masses. What was going through your mind to make you realize, like, okay, I have to put this out there? Like, when you came home, I can't just be a job. Like, this can't just be a job. I have to put this out there to a larger audience. What went through your mind to get you there?
A lot of it is your mindset, right? I think, one of the biggest traits that the Marines taught me was I may not be the best at something, but you can build a foundation off of something and continue to build up from there. As long as it becomes kind of an obsession or a hobby or something that you're passionate about. And cybersecurity for me was all of those, right? So it became my hobby, what I enjoyed doing. I remember my wife is amazing, by the way. I just want to keep caveating that because my early days, I just spent, weeks in the basement, figuring out, how to get around Microsoft's protection mechanisms to make them stronger and work with Microsoft, right? And, it was one of those things that became kind of an obsession for me, where I really focused on trying to do things that have never been done before in an innovative, industry that was just emerging and really get in the front of it. And I think, you look at anything in business, et cetera. I think a lot of hackers are really good, but they struggle in other areas around building businesses or understanding how you can monetize that or to be able to, bring awesome people in that help you as well. And so all of those were kind of running through my head as I was doing all of this. And I remember, when I first started TrustedSec, so TrustedSec I started first and then Binary Defense 2 years later. TrustedSec I started in the basement of my house. I'm like, I don't need an office. And then I think my twins destroying each other upstairs. And I'm like, okay, I need an office really quick. But I had no idea how to even start an LLC or any legal documents or MSAs or anything like that, statements of work. And I just kind of, again, made that my passion, my obsession, and started building upon that. And I have to credit my wife as well. She took a lot of the aspects that I'm weak at, and so she helped me with the finance. She's our CFO today at TrustedSec, and she took all of the stuff that I'm weak at, the finances and things like that. I can care less about the money aspect of things. I just want to go and do cool stuff. And we were able to build some really successful businesses and continue to build new successful businesses. I think I have like 11 or 12 businesses that I've started since then, and they're all growing, they're all profitable, and it's all been from a grassroots perspective too. I didn't take any funding initially, grew the companies very large, and then eventually for Binary Defense, we just a year and a half ago took some funding to grow, grew 150% last year, which is amazing in this industry. So we're definitely hitting it hard.
There is a lot to unpack there. But what I'm most interested in is, what's it like working with your wife?
A lot of people say don't hire your friends, don't hire your family members, don't work with your wife. I go against all those grains.
Really?
Yeah, my dad actually works for Binary Defense. He's an amazing person. He's the one that got me into technology early at an age. And it wasn't because he's my dad. He's actually, he worked for a school district and became an expert on our products that we're using early on. We had to test our security software, and we did kind of pro bono work for a lot of schools, and so he became an expert in it. So we ended up hiring him over he doesn't report to me, that'd be weird, but so we have a lot of dotted lines around that. But but working with my wife is fantastic. We have a great working relationship. as the CEO, run the company, but it's such a joint decision with our entire leadership team of how we tackle problems or how we go forward. And it's input from everybody to kind of hit that strategy and that vision to continue to grow, to continue to do innovative things. We work really well together. In fact, we've been married for 17 years, and our marriage has never been stronger. It's just an awesome thing.
Yeah, in 17 years, what was it like at the beginning? What was your financial situation like at the beginning?
Well, funny story with my wife. So I had been dating her for 24 days, and then I deployed to Iraq for a year. So I was in Iraq, and I was in what's called the Sunni Triangle of Death. So it's the worst area you could possibly imagine of Iraq. So Fallujah, Ramadi, a number of other areas. Okay. So, I was doing convoys all the time, and, a lot of bad things happening. And we made it through that whole year. And, when I got out of the military, I wasn't making a lot of money. We didn't have a lot of money in our pockets. I was just starting a career off coming out of the military. And we didn't really know what to do. But, she was a sign language interpreter for the deaf. Okay. So she knows how to do sign language. She didn't have a finance background or anything like that. And we kind of just went through and kind of trudged forward and learned as we went along. And that has been really successful for us. And it's funny because like a lot of people are like, oh, you read this book on business. I don't read any books on business. That's someone else's experience to me. I want to live my experience of doing something that I trust myself in and the people around me, and learn from those mistakes and build more. Now I try to learn, ways of doing things differently, but at the end of the day, we kind of forge our own path forward.
Mm-hmm. And she rode with you through a lot. So after 24 days, she stuck around with you.
Yep.
While you were deployed.
Yep, entire time. And then we moved, as soon as I got back, she actually flew out to Hawaii with me, because I was stationed in Hawaii.
Okay.
And we lived in Hawaii for a year before I got out of the military, and then we started our family then.
You started your family then, and you knew she was the one.
Absolutely. After 24 days, we both knew. Yeah.
How?
Just know. It's just one of those things that happens. It's just like you're the same person. You complete each other. You figure out where your weaknesses are, where their strengths are, and it was the perfect yin and yang of everything. She's very financially, fiscally conservative on everything, which is great. And I'm not, I don't look at the bank account or things like that. I just focus on, the other things, and we balance each other out extremely well. And, it's not to say marriages are perfect. You go through ups and downs and challenging times in businesses, which, can impact personal as well. But, we always rode through those and became even stronger every time. And, businesses go through ebbs and flows. Like, when you had COVID, you didn't know what was going to happen then, a lot of uncertainty. We ended up having a record year, luckily, but preparing for that and trying to figure out how do you take your business that a lot of it's consulting, which is in person, and then shift that to online to be able to allow the same type of services that you're providing to organizations in a seamless way. So there's a lot of uncertainties when you do this, but if you have a good partner, whether it's your spouse or a really good partner in your business or great leaders, you can really overcome anything.
And I imagine there was a lot of compromise there. So you said at a certain point, you had a really good job.
Perfect. And
you decided to do away with that and go start your own business. What was that conversation with her like when you decided to do that?
It's funny because when I look back at that day, I'm glad I did it. Yeah. I don't think I would do the same thing today. Knowing everything I know, I would do it. But at my age, I'm in my 40s now. I don't think I would take that risk. And that's exactly what I was playing in my head. I was 30 years old. I just turned 30. And I was thinking, I'm like, right now is the opportunity for me to try to do something and make this a business and do something I've never done before, because I'm passionate about it. And I know that what I built at Diebold, we had one of the most advanced cybersecurity programs in the world at the time. We were recognized by SE Magazine and a lot of others. We were winning awards. We had a great team. I had a dotted line directly to our board of directors, reported directly to our CEO. Again, at 26 years old, it's crazy. And I had an amazing job, I had an amazing team. We had built something really special there. And I remember driving home. So we lived in Bree at the time, which is about an hour drive from the office. So I was driving an hour there, an hour back every day to North Canton, where Diebold's headquarters is at. I remember driving home, and I've had this in my head for a long time, like 6 months. But you're like, should I do it? Should I not? And we've had conversations about it, but it's like, maybe we'll do it in a little bit. And I went home one day and I remember having a conversation with her. I'm like, hey, I think I want to go and leave Diebold and start my own company. I think now is the right time. And she said, listen, everything you've ever done that you're passionate about, you've been successful at, so let's figure out a way to make this work. What can I do to help? And that was it. That was the conversation. And then from there, started working on getting, an LLC stood up. You had to go online to some place to go register an LLC somewhere. I had no idea. I had no legal or law firms or anybody telling me how to run a business or anything like that. I just knew that, one, I believed in myself, I believed in Aaron, and we believed in each other, and it was going to go forward from there.
And I imagine you had to look at yourself in the mirror many a days and say, how am I going to make this work? How am I going to make this profitable? So first of all, how long was that window between starting and this is profitable?
So what's nice about the way that I looked at this was I always had the idea for binary defense, but to build a services organization that is heavily on development and security operations centers, which are manned by 24/7 staff, it's a big expenditure, right? And I didn't have that type of capital to start a company like that. But I knew I wanted to build a company like that because there was a big need in the industry. With TrustedSec, consulting is your biggest expense are going to be your people, right? Okay. So for me, I was the consultant, I was the salesperson, I was the marketing, I was everything else, running all of those roles at the time. So I traveled probably 80 to 90%, the first few years of TrustedSec to really get it to a point where, we were able to bring on additional people and add new folks and, eventually had dedicated salespeople and everything else. And now, TrustedSec has over 150 employees, and Binary Defense has over 350 employees. So I think together, we have up close to 500 employees, which is crazy to think about. Like, you're like, I don't know everybody's name sometimes. You're like, oh my gosh, this is so weird. But we maintain a really big family culture. Our people stay there for years and years and years. In consulting, it's a really difficult job. You're traveling a lot. You're doing a lot of things. Our retention rate is like, we lose one or two people maybe a year, and that's only because of usually a family situations. They get an amazing job from Google or Microsoft because we're known as some of the best cybersecurity companies in the industry. So we're able to retain a lot of people, and it was a lot of hard work and effort. I would say things got really tight because we only had 3 months of rent in our bank account. And I think when you first start a business, you don't realize payment terms. So I think we were like net 60. And so when you look at that, you're like, oh hey, well I have to build this work and I have to complete it. Then I have to wait 60 days to go and get paid. So we had to take a line of credit out, just to kind of keep that going. But eventually, things started kicking in. I had already established my name in the industry as pretty well, so I was able to really get some folks to believe in early stage TrustedSec and give us some work. Yeah. We worked for an entire country early on, which was really great. Helped out us a lot. Worked out with some of the largest law firms out there. And by the first year, we were already profitable.
David, you said eventually things started kicking in. I want to know about those nights, what you went through before that eventually happened.
You start having conversations of like, is this really going to work out, or are we going to be able to, pay ourselves, or how are we going to pay rent? How are we going to pay our mortgage? How are we going to, feed our kids and things like that? And so, when those times happen, you go into overdrive. Like I just, I didn't sleep. I just, focused on pounding work out, getting the work done, making sure it's quality work. But I'd work, 3 or 4 or 5 engagements at a time. I would write sales and proposals. I'd go out and speak at conferences all over the country to generate, work. And then Erin is in the back end, learning the financing. She had never touched QuickBooks before, so now we're doing QuickBooks and trying to figure things out. And so, all of these things were starting to build the foundation of what we had. But there was times where, I wouldn't sleep for 2, 3, 4 days, or if I did, it'd be for 2 hours. And I can't do that anymore. But I definitely need my good 6 or 7 hours of sleep. But I was, hacking all night, and then I was a business person all day. Hacking all night, business person all day, traveling in between there, speaking at places, and I was still, a figurehead in the industry. I still am a figurehead in the industry, but I had to, release, cutting edge research. So in that period of time, I'd have to figure out how to spend time researching, getting new, content out there to promote the company itself. So it was a lot of work to go into it. That, look back at, I'm like, man, I can't believe I did all that. I can't believe we did all that. But it was really, really foundational to what it is today.
Yeah, you're wearing a lot of hats. How did you come up with a daily routine to get it all done?
It's, for me, even today, I wear a lot of hats, right? Everything from CEO to, I have another title, Chief Hacking Officer. So when you own your own company, you can come up with really cool titles. But, it's, there were a lot of hats today. And it all comes down to what is most important from a prioritization perspective. And I think a lot of people lose focus of that. There's a million things that can be going on in a day that you have to complete, but are there really a million things that need to be completed in a day? What are the top 10 things that you need to complete in a day that you need to knock out that are critical for what you're doing? So for me, it was looking at it on a day-to-day basis, but also not losing focus of I needed help. I needed to get people in the door to be able to hire so that I can start to take some of my responsibilities away. And that's one thing that I've always done. I don't have an ego. I don't think I'm better than anybody else. We're all peers in our companies. We just wear different hats and roles, and we have different experiences. And one of the things that I recognize is that if I can get responsibility off of me so I can free up my time, I can focus on those areas that are most important. And so within 6 months, we had hired a staff consultant to come aboard. I think it was actually 8 months. 8 months, we had a staff consultant that came aboard. And so that person was doing a lot of the technical work, while I then focused on the sales, the marketing, making sure the delivery was proper, talking to the customers, and then doing all the traveling that was going on there. So, it was always with the mindset of I'm going to have to do this it's going to be painful for 6 months to a year to 2 years, but with the goal of I will have folks with me to be able to help me out as I go through this journey. And I was able to hire a lot of my great friends. Eventually, one of my friends, Scott White, who worked with me at my consulting company when I first got out, he then joined Diebold and built our application security team. And then hired Scott. I think he was employee number 4. And Scott was just a foundational person because he knew web applications and cybersecurity really well. And he was able to really take most of the technical work away from me so that I can focus on growing the company, the business, going on speaking, releasing tools, doing research. And I still did a ton of work, but I was able to really focus on the things that helped grow the business.
Your whole journey, it sounds like giving back. Giving back. You gave back to your country. You're giving back to your family and friends by helping them with careers. Do you feel like you're living in your purpose right now?
Yeah. So there's a time in life where you look at things and you're like, man, there's a point in your life where something just clicked in your brain. And there was a time when I was in Iraq where, and I won't go through the details, but our convoy got hit by IEDs and ambushes and things like that. And I didn't think I was going to make it through the convoy. And so at that day, I looked up at the sky and I was like, hey, if I can make it through this, I'm going to treat every day like it's a gift, and I'm going to help others with that. Just hear me out, God. If you're out there, let me know. And made it through. And ever since that day, I've always had the drive and passion of helping others. In fact, where I graduated from is a place called Bedford High School. It's a inner city school just outside of Cleveland, Ohio. It's one of the worst. It's one of the worst school districts, I think, in the area, just from a crime perspective. They actually shut the whole high school down, not for COVID, but because of gang-related activities, guns, things like that. Metal detectors get inside. It's a really bad spot. And these kids have no opportunity to really get STEM or to learn, IT and tech. And so a few years ago, I built their esports gaming facility, and they call it the David Kennedy Center of Leadership and Gaming, I think is what it's called. And it created 20 scholarship opportunities a year into esports and eventually, technology and IT. And that was a great start, but it wasn't where I wanted to go with it. And what I'm working on right now, and we just released it this year, is Bedford High School is the first school, I believe in the Midwest, even in the country, that now offers college level 9 through 12 cybersecurity related courses. And I funded that whole program and worked with a company called Paradigm Security to build these course materials out for these kids. And it's giving them opportunities, scholarships, as well as our whole goal with it is, skip, college is good, but you can skip college and go directly into TrustedSec as a paid internship eventually to, full-time employees from these kids that would never have an opportunity. So they can go 9 through 12, go through these programs, and then come right into TrustedSec and learn the tricks of the trade and cybersecurity stuff, and we can get these kids jobs where they never have opportunities to. So since then, we released that at the beginning of this year. Other schools in Northeast Ohio are now onboarding this program as well. And now cybersecurity is really taking off in high school, 9 through 12, K-12, and really kind of helping the shortage of cybersecurity professionals we have, but we're teaching them the right way and giving them opportunities. And that's been my whole goal is to help others and to, again, make the world a safer place, which is our mission statement both at Pioneer and TrustedSec. So
you put a lot of your money into giving back and helping others. Where else do you put your money?
I'm a serial entrepreneur now at this point. So whenever there's a need for something, I like to invest in that. So I invested and I'm a partner and help run basketball training facilities for youth. So we have, I think, 7 facilities now. They're franchises now. And it's great because you can have AAU tournaments there for basketball. We have this technology that is these shooting guns that you can get like 500 shots off for basketball per half hour, and it tracks all your data and metrics from a technology perspective, so you can see where you're getting better at basketballs, and it's got its own app, and the parents can see how well their kids are improving at basketball. So just, again, more on the helping theme, of trying to get other things with there. So I would say investments in businesses that are helping kids, helping people. Being able to do that is a dream come true. I also have spent my money on a DeLorean, so I have a fully converted Back to the Future machine DeLorean. So it's a whole another thing. But when I was a kid, Back to the Future is actually what got me into cybersecurity, believe it or not. So that movie, the future of what is possible and the technology and everything else, it spurred my interest into technology, computers, and that's when I actually started it. So Back to the Future to me is like one of the things as a kid that got me into cybersecurity.
And that is an interesting purchase. Well, tell us about some of your smartest purchases and your dumbest purchases.
So the DeLorean's probably one of my dumbest purchases. I when it comes to investments, I like to invest in friends as well.
Yeah.
I invested in a longevity clinic. I'm big into health and fitness. And I invested in one of my friends that was helping others, both military, that, our medical system's kind of weird. So it helps with understanding your blood work and getting you the right type of things that you need to kind of balance your hormones and make sure you're doing them. And that company's doing amazing and doing great. One of my best investments, I think, was working with Emil and getting that company started and helping there. But, I also, throughout these different times, the companies have gone through like different evolutions. So Binary Defense, we took investment last year from a company called Invictus, a PE firm called Invictus, and they're phenomenal. And I've always been hesitant on taking investment money before because I've always loved, one, I guess owning 100% of the company, but two, making sure that if I take investment, it doesn't impact our culture, our people, our friends that are working there, and those types of things. And last year we decided to take investment. We got it's public information. We took a $39 million investment into Binary Defense, and one of the single best decisions that I've ever made, because we were able to bring in a brand new leadership team over at Binary Defense that came from Lockheed Martin and Capgemini, and they were just amazing people. Like they kept our culture, but they're so smart on running this business that we grew over 150% last year just alone, and so single-handedly one of the best decisions that I've ever made. Bob, our CEO over at Binary Defense, is incredible. He brought in his folks that he had worked with previously in the past, and it was just a culmination of the stars aligning to get Bob in the first place, but also the ability to bring in an amazing leadership team that knows what they're doing in cybersecurity, is experienced in cybersecurity, and executes at a high level. It was a complete game changer for Binary Defense. I mean, we went from, I think when Bob joined a year and a half ago, we were probably at 150, and we're at 350 now, and we're looking at hiring another 100 and some people this year. So we're exploding.
David, you're talking about having a leadership team who knows what they're doing. How do you know what you're doing? You started off with humble beginnings. How did you learn how to manage all this wealth?
It's Erin, my wife, still struggles with that, because we're not living in an apartment anymore with our parents' houses anymore, right? And it's a matter of one, staying humble with it, but also recognizing that we need to set succession plans up for our kids and our families and those types of things. And I stay very in tune to the businesses themselves, so I'm very heavily involved every day, in the day-to-day of TrustedSec and the day-to-day of Binary Defense. So I don't lose focus of that, but we're also recognizing that, hey, these companies are getting to a point that, this is like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Like, this doesn't happen to folks normally, right? And so it's still weird, it's still shocking, because we still view ourselves as, Dave and Erin from, 25 years old or 24 years old, when, she's just graduating college and I'm just getting out of the Marines. And, we have these upbringings where, we came from nothing to something. And it's definitely life-changing. But, we still live very humble lives. We have one house, I have 3 cars because of the DeLorean, but, 2 cars. And we have amazing kids. I have 3 kids. We have twins and a 15-year-old. And, they're all in sports. So, what's great is, while I had to travel pretty substantially during the first few years, never lost focus of family. The importance of family was number one. So, I coached all my kids' basketball teams. I'm heavily involved in all of their sports and activities. I've got them into weight training, and so I go to all their basketball games, go to all their volleyball games. I don't do swim meets. I can't handle swimming. I'm not a big swimming fan, but everything else I can handle. But baseball and everything else. So just enjoying this family time and the success, and teaching our kids responsibly what to do and how to handle things. But it's been an amazing ride. Like, everybody asks, what would you change if there's one thing you go back and change? And I won't change a thing, because I've had failures if I messed up on something. I would, that's something I learned from that I was able to build upon to be successful next time. So I wouldn't change a thing.
So what 3 pieces of advice would you leave for entrepreneurs these days who are kind of winging it? They don't really know what they're doing. They're winging it.
Yeah, the 3 biggest things I would say, number 1, believe in yourself.
Yeah.
Like you have to believe in yourself, because that's the difference between an entrepreneur and a non-entrepreneur. A non-entrepreneur will work the same job the rest of their life or go to different jobs and continue to go there. An entrepreneur will say, this is awesome, but I can do this by myself. And it's scary because you're uplifting, your family members or twins or kids, and you really have to be conscious of that. But you believe in yourself, you're going to be successful at whatever you do in some capacity or not. The second thing is recognizing that being an entrepreneur will only take you so far, and that you're going to need other people to help you along the way. And I think that's the most important thing that a lot of people forget, and why I think a lot of businesses either fail or really struggle is because the entrepreneur is the person that's still leading the charge in sales and marketing or whatever they're good at, and they may not be the best person in that role that fit. As an entrepreneur, you need to take a step back after a certain period of time and say, I have a great team. They're smart in all of those other areas. I don't need to be that person anymore to go and do the day-to-day. And that's hard for a lot of people, to take a step back and say, I'm no longer really the leader of these teams, right? Bob, our CEO, he's running our company every single day, without asking me anything for permission, right? And you have to be really comfortable with that and trust them, but also recognize that they're much stronger in what they do than I am, right? I took it to a certain point, I got to a certain step, but at a certain point in time, I have to say, listen, there's going to be a time where I'm not going to be the best for this, and I need to step back and allow people, my team to grow, allow the company to grow, allow it to go in the right direction, the right way, without losing focus of your culture and your people. The third one, which is probably the most important, is that companies are made of people, and people are your most important asset. Treat your people like royalty, regardless if they're just coming in as a junior or if they're someone that's been there since the very beginning. Some of my best friends still work at Binary Defense. I was actually, when I flew out from Cleveland to here today, I was out having drinks with one of my best friends, Dave DeSimon. We went to a steakhouse, and I hadn't seen him in like a couple of weeks, and he's one of my best friends. He's been there since I think the first month of Binary Defense, right? And don't lose focus of the people that put in all the work every day to make that company successful, but most importantly, they believe in you leading that company and the mission that you're providing. And I think that's where a lot of CEOs miss this newer generation. You hear a lot of CEOs say, "Oh, this newer generation doesn't work. They don't know how to do things." It's not that at all. They're the best workers I think I've ever hired before. These younger generations are amazing, but they want to be a part of something that is historic or that they believe in, that's doing a difference for the world, right? They're very big on helping others. And if you can align your company with those values, treat your people, with as much care and respect as you possibly can, and understand, they go through troubles in their own personal lives, and at the office you can come in if you want to. There's no, it's work from home, but you can come in when you want to. We have video games, we have massage chairs, and it's a cool place to go. It's a super high tech facility, but you don't have to come in the office, and you can work whenever you want. You can come in at 10 o'clock or 12 o'clock as long as you get your work done, right? And I think it's just treating people like human beings, having a fun culture, being able to recognize that everybody contributes to the organization's success. It's all about people. Companies are all about people.
Well, David, God really answered your prayer that day.
He did. He sure did. He came back, and man, it was like a whammy when I made it through and I got to my base. My whole life was changed for the better.
I have to ask, what's your faith like today?
Very strong.
Yeah.
Very strong. Yes. It's as well as my whole family. I think faith is an important aspect, and in regardless of beliefs. I think the fact that you're helping others and making the world a better place, regardless of religion or what you believe in, is a powerful thing, right? But for me, faith has always been something that has been a guiding force for me and my family to try to do the right things, across the world, and not lose focus of what the most important thing is, which is living this life and having a great time with it, right? And how many people that you can help change or make for the better, while you're on this earth for a very short period of time. So I hope, when my day comes, that I've helped so many people on here that maybe I get a little bit of passageway through or whatever for the mistakes I've made. But at the end of the day, just yesterday we hired somebody, and this individual, his name's Ricky. I've known him for a few years, but he was working as a security guard for a mall, and for a hospital. And he's been trying to break into cybersecurity, and I could see the passion in Ricky. Like just wanted to do it. And to his own credit, he studied, he took certifications. Every time I talked to him, he was online trying to figure things out. Just gave him a job offer yesterday, and he responded back literally in tears saying, man, this is the biggest life-changing event that I've ever had in my entire life. Thank you, right? To be able to provide those opportunities for others, that's the best thing you could be doing. Like, that's what keeps me going, is seeing the success of other people and that they grow in their own shoes and they have the opportunities to be successful, because that's, at the end of the day, what I want for everybody else.
Yes. God blesses those who bless others.
I agree.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it. And always happy to answer your questions, so feel free to reach out.
Absolutely.
Thank you.